Well, good afternoon. And everyone's still awake. I'm probably going to take quite a different approach today to what you've been hearing. And I think, hello Gillian. I just want to start by helping us all just to step back a little bit, to really sort of think about the time that we're in. And I think everyone here is in agreement that the world is going through a time of cataclysmic change. Yeah? You agree? It's like everywhere you look, societal norms are being tipped on their head. Power is shifting. Society is shifting. Business is shifting. It's exciting. It's terrifying. But I think it's also a fascinating time to be alive. Obviously, as long as we don't end up in global catastrophe. So it's a cool time to be alive. And there's a fantastic opportunity that every single professional has right now. And this is so that you can build the career that you want and create the future that you want for yourself and your family. And that is to own your voice. To own your voice, it's all about becoming a world-class social leader who drives change and creates conversation that is relevant to your industry. And you've got to turn up and you've got to commit to it and you've got to do it yourself. Okay? But before we talk about what it takes to become what I consider a world-class social leader, I think we need to talk about the fact that we are now living through the greatest time of distrust. Every year I kick off my year by reading Edelman's Trust Barometer. Does anyone read it? It should be compulsory reading for anybody in business. And so this is the results that came out at the beginning of this year. Unsurprisingly, the Trump effect. America saw its greatest drop in trust since they started doing this report nearly 2 decades ago. My country, Australia, isn't doing too well either, which isn't surprising considering the politics. But if you look at it, in Asia, trust is good and has increased. I think China's at the top at the moment, right? So trust isn't necessarily as much of an issue in this region, but we're all part of a global economy today. So this report measures business, government, charities, and the media. And guess who's the bottom of the trust index for those 4? Who do you think it is? Media. Yeah, the media. But one of the good shifts that happened in this report for last year was CEOs of companies' trust the year before had been at an all-time low. And because of what's been going on in the US in politics, what's happened is we, the people, are now looking to the leaders of business to stand up and own the change that needs to happen in the world. And that's change like taking responsibility for the environment, sustainability, diversity, equality, all of the important issues for society. We're now looking at the leaders of business to own that. The Copernic ad, right? They're standing up for something that they believe in. So it's starting to happen. And this is an important time for the leaders of business to own their authentic voice. Not all of them are going to get it right, but I think we're off to a better start than we were the year before. But this is what I found most interesting in the report. I know it's a little bit hard to see some of this information, and I'll put it on SlideShare afterwards. Do you remember Nigel Farage in the build-up to Brexit? He said, nobody trusts the experts anymore. It's a very dangerous world when we don't trust the experts, right? Thankfully, the experts are back in vogue and we trust them again. So the first 2 are technical experts and academic experts. So they're the most trusted voices. But third is what matters the most, and that's a person like yourself. Now, trust in a person like yourself did actually drop, and that, I believe, is down to things like we're not being vigilant enough in things like sharing fake news. We're not checking our sources enough. But the top 3 communities that are trusted are the people that work in a business or in academic institutions. So trust, I believe, should be the #1 strategic priority for business today. Getting it, earning it, and keeping it. But the other thing, of course, that we need to look at is the customer today. And I'm sure that there's been a lot of conversation around the customer, but maybe this is a slightly different perspective. We're all customers today. All of us have thousands of brands vying for our attention and for our pockets, right? But the customer, he's sitting there and they are overwhelmed. We are in the era of content shock. On a professional level, they're overwhelmed by priorities. Which one of these should I be focused on right now? They've got so much information coming at them. But the other thing that they're being overwhelmed by is all the information in the world. I don't know about you, but I've been tracking the hurricane and the typhoons this week because it could be catastrophic, right? Serena Williams, that whole thing's been playing out for the whole week and it's going to continue for a while. There's always so much going on and we're all being overwhelmed and distracted by the amount of information that's flowing around the world every single day. I once wrote a blog saying your content marketing competes with Donald Trump today. It wasn't an anti-Trump post, although I would happily write an anti-Trump post. It was about the fact that every piece of information created competes with every piece of information created. So whatever you do, it has to be good enough to break through and get the attention of the customer, just like yourself, who is overwhelmed. One good thing about the time of content shock, though, and the negative times that we're experiencing in the world, is there's lots of good comedy coming out. Did you see this one yesterday of Trump on walking on water? I thought that was brilliant. But getting back to trust, who do we trust? So, 1 to 10, this is another survey by Affiliate. The first two communities who we trust, family and friends, of course we do. After that, it's bloggers, social media connections, and then colleagues. I was delighted to see bloggers coming in at number 3, that was great, but a little bit perplexed that the human beings we sit next to on a daily basis aren't as trustworthy as a person that we can know online but have never met in person, so it says something, right? And here's the bottom 5. Any surprises there? Now obviously in Asia, politicians would potentially be higher up the list. Religious leaders still have a very dominant role in a lot of societies across Asia Pacific. So the order might not be an accurate reflection in every single country, but it gives you an idea. But my question to you is, what's the significant difference between the top 5 and the bottom 5? What was that? Centralisation?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Haven't heard that one.
organisations and the others are people.
Yeah, okay, that's one idea, yeah. Human connection, yeah. So the top 5 are humans, yeah. But the bottom 5, yeah. No, it's true. A brand isn't a human, right? But the bottom 5, yeah, well, there we go. But the bottom 5, they want something from us. They want us to vote for them, to buy from them, to believe in them, to endorse them. So there's a need, right? Now, of course, some people have families that want that too, but typically the top 5 aren't really asking that much in return. So the top 5 are who we trust. And what's happened throughout history is the bottom 5 have had complete control of the information cycle. And it's been a pyramid that's top down. And they've been in control. And to me, this is one of the most significant shifts of our time. We now have a diamond. And that means every single one of us, we not only have access to all of the information in the world, we can create our own information to put out there in the world. And so we, the people, are incredibly powerful now. And we don't even know it yet. I'm starting to feel that we're waking up to our power. The social movements that are coming up around the world, I think we are starting to wake up, but I think we've still got a long way to go. And it's going to be electrifying when we wake up, and the young people are going to lead this. But we can do it too. If you know me on my personal social media sites, as a few people here do, I'm not shy with expressing my opinions, right? But what it's forcing the customer to do is to hide inside a bubble of trust. And the only people that are welcome inside that bubble of trust are the top 5. Their family, their friends, colleagues, social media connections, and bloggers. And there's more than 3 billion people on social media today, so that means we have more than 3 billion bubbles of trust, and we're all overlapping, we're all talking to each other, we're all hearing each other. social media is not necessarily a wonderful thing in all ways, right? So there's a lot of downsides. The first is the scandals that have hit social media this year. Cambridge Analytica, I think it knocked most of us sideways. Right? We lost trust in the social media companies. However, do you think we paid enough attention to our responsibility in giving away our information? I don't think we did, all right? So we're responsible for where social media goes. We have to start taking responsibility. Cyber warfare, manipulations in elections, we're constantly seeing that. And I think in 5-10 years' time, we'll look back on this time and really understand what's going on right now. I think people are keeping that very quiet. The algorithms of social media, they're keeping us inside these information and intellectual silos. We're only hearing opinions that reflect our own, and that's a dangerous thing as well. There's all of the information channels are just pumping us full of fear and anxiety. I mean, everybody knows you can't make a decision from yourself from a place of fear, and yet here we are as nations and as a global community, and we're all making decisions from a place of fear. And that's probably the thing that scares me the most. And the final thing is, of course, the trolls, the non-humans, and basically the morons. I'm a female blogger, trust me, I attract a few morons. So there are a lot of downsides to social media, but there's a beautiful upside, and this is why I love social media so much. I love it personally, and I love it professionally, because this is where the world goes to express itself today. We're laughing and crying together. We're mourning friends and family. We're celebrating new life, and we're looking at people's cute, fluffy kittens and puppy dogs, right? And it's like the ultimate world of humanity on display. And it's magnificent and raw, because today we live and work out loud. But working out loud is still something that we're resisting. We're scared to work out loud. So there is a lot of beautiful upsides to social media. But getting back to those 3 billion bubbles of trust. So the bottom 5, they're all outside trying to break in. And how do they break in? But more importantly, for business professionals, how do brands break in? And this is the challenge that a lot of marketing leaders are facing today. They don't know how to do it. They're struggling to do it. So how does a brand break in today? And the first thing is, they need to change the mindset and say, I need to earn the right to my customers' time inside their bubble where they are doing what they're doing. And they're not. They're not earning the right. And earning the right is what we should all be thinking about today. Whether you're an individual entrepreneur or you work for a large MNC, we need to earn the right to exist where our customers are today. But how can you earn the right when brand trust is at an all-time low? The other challenge, of course, is Facebook have started to limit brands on Facebook, on the platform, to encourage the human-to-human interaction again, which is a good thing for us, not necessarily for brands spending a lot of money on Facebook, because you do spend more money on Facebook now than before. Of course, the other alternative is you keep interrupting your customers, which is what brands have always done. How many people have been watching an inspirational video just making them cry? It's a beautiful story, and some poxy ad breaks into the middle of it, and you can't stop it and you can't skip it. You have to watch it before you get to the... I mean, how can any brand think that's a good experience for a customer? I hate those brands for doing that to me. It really annoys me. Can you tell? Anyway, but this is where social leadership comes in. Because if you want to break into the bubbles of trust, then why not harness the people who are already in there? And that's all of the employees that work for your organisation. This is the opportunity today. And being a social leader is an amazingly transformational cultural change that a company can do with its employees. I've got a very, very extensive case study which you can find on SlideShare or on my LinkedIn profile. So for the last couple of years, I've had the real privilege of working with IBM in Asia Pacific, training over 500 of their people to be social leaders. So it's a different way, it's a different approach. But the great thing is, we were able to prove that it pays. So I went out and surveyed 500 people who attended. Less than 10 replied with the money question, because apparently salespeople don't like telling marketing people how much money they bring in. But these are verified numbers. At a minimum, we can prove that social media actions as a first point generated $24 million in customer wins and $57 million in pipeline. It could be 2, 3, 10 times higher. Less than 10 people replied. And I spoke to every single person that told me how much money that they had pulled in and understood their story. So if you're feeling cynical about these numbers, feel free to come and talk to me and I can put you in touch with the people who told me their stories. It's been incredible to be able to prove it because it's important that it pays. However, the thing that I really, really value about the experience of doing this with IBM is the cultural change that's happened in the business. People are more engaged. They're much more engaged in IBM. The engagement surveys have gone up since we started. They believe in the company. They believe in the company's future relevance because of the program that we've been running. People feel more educated because they're reading more, because you've got to go and find great information to share. So it's been a very powerful opportunity, which hopefully is going to grow right across the region, right across the business. So how do you become a world-class social leader? So here's my top 10 tips, and I'm sure that there'll be many other tips that people can share. But the first one is, it's all about focus. I advise anyone that I work with that you define what you want to be known for, you put your stake in the ground for it, and then 80% of your time on social media is spent talking about that. It's not talking about your company, it's not talking about 10 different things, because if people can't place you, they can't know you. So you've got to be focused. I'll give you an example. Well, I'll give you a few examples. These are people I've worked with and people I admire. So in the top left is Eric Schnatterly. So he's the Vice President of the business unit I've been working with at IBM. And he's a true social leader. He talks about leadership and creating a more vibrant and happy workplace. That's his real focus. Stanimira Kaliva, she's the Managing Director for Citrix for Asia Pacific. She talks about getting ready for the future of work. So it's about transforming business today. Shalaka Verma, she works with IBM, she's based out of Mumbai. She is the smartest person I've ever met. She writes blogs that are so technical, it's like reading another language. But she also talks about the topic noetic science. Does anyone know what that is? I'll go and look it up, it's fascinating. Wendy McEwen, Wendy Hogan is a great friend of mine. She talks about customer experience and employee experience from a marketing perspective, and she's doing a stunning job being a social leader right across different platforms. Julian Kasparian, he's the CEO of BNP Paribas Security Services in Hong Kong. It's a really long name. But he's a new CEO, so he's decided to talk about what he's learning as a new CEO. And then the final person that if anyone's in sales, go and check out this guy, Paul Jameson. He's based in Melbourne and he works for IBM. He's one of the guys that contributed to the figure. He has unlocked doors to customers who had no interest in ever working with IBM. He's had CTOs reach out to him through private messages on LinkedIn, and they've said to him, I want to meet you. He's gone in to meet them, he hasn't had to sell a thing, they've read everything he shares, they know what they want, and so basically he becomes just a strategic advisor. So here's a handful of people that are doing a fantastic job. They are social leaders, they're committed to it, and they're focused, because focus is the critical part. The next tip is all about the content, all right? So Roger was talking about content. Content is very important. Now, if you really want to become a leader, a thought leader, you want to be an influencer in your field, creating your own content is obviously a critical part of that. Who's blogging? Okay, so 90% of the audience should be raising their hand right now, okay? It's really important. You cannot really establish yourself as a thought leader unless you're creating